I've shared previous videos on the crazy politics that come into play in competition, whether it's how much time the teacher's spending with certain students, why the judges are marking certain couples that might not appear in your eye to be maybe the best dancers, selecting who the judging panel is and who's staffing the event, just layers and layers and layers. Related to this, one of our friends here asked a question in a private message to me. In preparing for an upcoming big competition, if I perceive a difference in the politics that come into play in these small comps versus the big comps. And I sent them a private message response, and I was like, oh gosh, I bet other people are thinking this question too. But it took me a while to digest, like, how can I communicate this in a way that I don't make enemies? Which was my biggest fear making this YouTube channel, friends. Okay, so here goes. Yeah, there are differences. So in my experience, the smaller comps usually, I'm painting with a broad brush here, but usually bring in a local judging panel. They do not have the deep pockets of those big giant comps because most of the entries come based on volume of students. You have, 1,000 people show up and they're going to bring in exponentially more money than, 50 couples that show up. So they're going to not have that budget. They'll bring in the local teachers. The local teachers statistically are judging more of their local students. Okay, because in these smaller comps, these are not magnet events where you have judges coming in from all over the country, students coming in from all over the country, a very diverse, big judging panel like you would have in a championship level event. You might have 9 judges on the floor. In a little comp, I'll probably just have like 3 judges. And so each individual judge's mark has a lot more weight to it, okay, than if I had like a 9-judge panel. And secondly, because just statistically speaking, with, more of the couples being more locally located that are showing up, these students are more likely to have friends in the audience and coaches on their own judging panel. And although there are rules in place to try to limit favoritism in judging, it's a giant dam. You can only plug so many holes, okay? And so coaches are not prohibited by any rules that I know of. Hey, share if you know something different. I've never heard of it. But judges are not prohibited in any way from judging their own students. So they, have a sometimes vested interest in marking their students higher than perhaps other students, because that would indicate that they themselves are a better teacher. Though honestly, I think usually that motivation for what you would perhaps reasonably perceive as favoritism in the judging, and like, well, gosh, this other couple slayed it. Why is that couple winning? Well, a teacher naturally is going to prioritize the aspects of dancing that are important to them. And this comes heavily into play in the syllabus categories, because no one is doing everything perfect at that point, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm comparing apples and oranges. Those events are darn hard to judge, guys, because it's like, well, this couple's timing's jacked up. This couple's doing totally messed up heels and toes. This one's frame is all over the place. Like, it's quite hard. And so you really have to pick and choose your battles. And so naturally, as human beings, they're going to pick what is most important to them. And guess what they're focusing on when they're teaching their own students? What's important to them. So hopefully that makes sense. So although there are some shady things that go on behind closed doors, friends, and I've shared those ugly things in other videos, honestly, most judges are trying their very best to mark ethically and fairly. As a matter of fact, I did judge very early on in my pro career, and it was extremely uncomfortable for many reasons. First and foremost, if I'm judging my own couples on the floor, I hate to admit this, but I was harder on mine than I would have been if they weren't my students, because I'm so afraid and mentally, paranoid that everyone's going to think I'm favoring my own students, So the judges are not in an easy position, friends. Okay, now the politics coming into play in these bigger comps, yes, it's just different. Statistically, you have couples coming in from all over the country and judges coming in from all over the country. And the variable that, in my opinion, is really big in these comps is you have, I'll call it the most reputable pros competing pro-am at these big competitions, and the most reputable professional couples showing up to these major competitions. So, if you're an Emerald Ball or something, it's going to be different than a little comp. And so there is, in my perception, again, I'm just one person in the world of ballroom dancers. If you have experienced something different, have a different opinion, please share your experiences. But this is my experience. I have seen in the major national comps in the United States, as well as the international comps, the judges, in terms of pro-am, favor the couples who have that, I'll say, really elite level pro dancing pram with that person. So all things being equal, in my opinion, I have seen and what I feel to be favoritism towards that more reputable, so to speak, pro partner. Again, if you've seen something different, please share. But honestly, I've seen it. And certainly in the pro divisions as well. I shared this story in one of my previous videos at the UK Open. There's 3 major comps in England each year. I'm sure you've heard of Blackpool, but there's also the UK Open and the Elsa Wells International. That one's in October. UK Open's in January. Anyway, one year at the UK Open, there was a couple that made the final. Honest to goodness, they didn't deserve to make it out of the first round. And they beat many couples in that final who so got thrown under the bus in favor of this couple. It was a very reputable couple, 2 dancers. And in their defense, it was a more recent partnership. They were nowhere near as seasoned. It wouldn't shock me if she didn't even know his routines yet, because my first Blackpool with my second partner, our coaches pulled some strings to get us a late entry. I didn't even know our routines yet. I just hang on and fly blind. That does happen. But I also don't expect the judges to, mark me and like, oh, well, she's got a handicap. You know what? I'm dancing open pro. I shouldn't have a handicap. In my opinion, I felt like they were judging this couple like a golf game. Like, oh, we'll give them a handicap, and now they're yanked way up the rankings. I just felt it was, my heart just broke for those pro couples. At this particular year, I was still an amateur, but to me and to everyone sitting around me, honestly, it was plain as day. There was massive favoritism. The upside of these big comps is they bring in usually very reputable pros. And you have got the diaspora, especially in the pro-am. For example, you might have a bronze event, but you've got couples from 20 different states at least on that floor. And then it's possible, guys, very possible, that none of the judges on that panel have taught any of those couples, which is great. I love that. That is the least biased judging of all. And so, pros and cons, guys. Regardless of the politics going into a comp, whether you think it's going to play in your favor or not, I say go. You're still going to learn a ton. Is it soul crushing when you don't get results, that you wanted, or heaven forbid, sometimes you're not going to get the results that maybe you deserved? You know what? move on, learn, watch the better couples. You know, if you're at a big comp, you do get the opportunity to see the Open Pro and see some awesome couples and emulate what you see. If you are competing in syllabus, you get perhaps the opportunity to watch those silver couples, watch those scholarship events and see, okay, what's the target? It's very difficult to hit the bullseye when you haven't seen the bullseye. So I love all competition. I feel, you know, I get it. I'm a competitor too. I want to win, but you know, we are winning a war. It's a long-term race, friends. It's not one little battle. And you know, get a video, have your coach assess your dancing. Odds are each comp you're getting a little better and better and better. So anyway, I hope that answer is helpful to people. And if you've seen something different, please, I love hearing your stories. Fascinating to me. And also, if you're comfortable, share which part of the world you're from, or even if you're within the United States, because we have a super big country we're living in here. It's quite different economies and cultures and dance sport cultures, depending on, you know, which 1,000-mile radius you live in. So anyway, friends, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning with some more things ballroom dance. And I so appreciate when you guys send me questions. So thank you to our special friend who messaged me. If you do not feel comfortable shooting me a message in the comments, just send me a message on my Facebook page. I'm not a social media person. I've never even seen TikTok. You might need to send me a friend request so I can actually see your message, but trust you me, I will respond. And if it's something really sensitive, I might just shoot you a little personal message or even record a private message response to you. I'm not going to ignore you. And if you do comment and I do ignore you, there's a glitch in the matrix. Just re-comment, and YouTube will notify me. YouTube sometimes does some weird stuff, you know, like they'll, you know, unsubscribe people that subscribed, or I know someone commented and then it doesn't show up in my notification of comments, but then when I go back to the date the person referenced, there's their comment. So anyway, glitch in the matrix. Overall, as you know, I love YouTube. I'm not complaining. If this is a wonderful opportunity for us as a worldwide community of ballroom dancers to share in each other's stories and excitement and goals and challenges. So anyway, friends, have an awesome, happy ballroom dancing day, and I'll see you first thing tomorrow. Bye, guys.